Welcome back, beautiful souls. In part one, we talked about tuning into new potentials in the quantum field and how you place your attention decides the future that you align with. I know, mind blowing. When I first read it, I was like, yo, but this is why I'm doing this reading because I need more people to understand this. So now in part two, we're going even deeper into how the science of how I'm sorry, into the science of how your brain actually begins to rewire itself when you start focusing on new possibilities instead of memorized patterns from your past. Let's dive into it. Okay. So, this section is titled Brain Changes. So he says, when you walk through the door of the quantum field, you can't enter as a some body. You have to enter as a no body. And a lot of people have a hang up with this, but you got to listen for what he means by that. You have to enter as a nobody, as only an awareness or a consciousness, a thought or a possibility, leaving behind everything else in the physical world and living only in the present moment. That's what he means by being a nobody. Not you ain't nobody, you don't mean anything, but in consciousness, when you're in meditative states, you want to forget about everything the world taught you about who you are. Because, in essence, when we no longer live in these bodies, when we make our transition, we can't leave with these bodies or that identity. We leave as a spirit, as a consciousness. So that's what he's trying to get you to return to through these explanations. So he says, and as I said in the previous chapter, this process requires that you break your chemical addiction, at least temporarily, to the same emotions that used to drive your thoughts, and you stop feeling the same way so you can stop putting your attention on the three-dimensional world of matter, the particle, and instead put your attention on energy or possibility, the wave. Given all of that, you probably won't be surprised to learn that such an experience creates some pretty significant changes in your brain. First, because you're perceiving yourself as being beyond the physical world, which means there are no outside dangers to anticipate, your thinking brain, the neocortex, the seat of your conscious mind, slows down, becomes less aroused, and works in a more holistic fashion. Earlier, we talked about how living by the hormones of stress causes our brain waves to fire in a very disordered, incoherent pattern, which in turn means our bodies can't work efficiently because we are trying to control and predict everything in our lives. We become excessively focused, shifting our attention from one person to another, from one thing to another, to some place at a certain time, activating the various neurological networks assigned to each one of these knowns. Once we slip into the present moment and become aware of this infinite field of information where there is nothing physical, this eternal void, and once we are no longer analyzing or thinking about anybody, anyone, anything, any place, or any time, we are no longer activating those different compartments of neural networks in our brain. And as we move our awareness from our narrow focus on matter, objects, people, places, our bodies, and time in our external environment, and instead open our focus and become aware of the vastness of this infinite blackness by putting our attention on nothing, on space, and on energy and information, our brain begins to change. The different compartments that were once subdivided now start to unify and move toward coherent whole brain state. Different neural communities reach out and form bigger communities. They synchronize, organize, and integrate. And what syncs in the brain begins to link in the brain. Once your brain gets coherent, you get coherent. When it gets orderly, you get orderly. When it works well, you work well. In short, when it functions more holistically, you feel more whole. In other words, once you start connecting to the unified field as an awareness, or once you become more aware of it by paying attention to it, your biology becomes more whole and unified, since the unified field is by definition a unifying energy. To more clearly see the difference between coherence and incoherence, take a look at graphic 2, which I will show you. Is that it? This is graphic 2 in the color insert as well as figure 3.1. Oh, this is figure 3.1. Let's see. I'm going to look for graphic 2. He showed a lot of graphics. I don't see anything that says graphic 2 yet. Mm, maybe I'll show y'all that later yeah, because I don't see. Oh, okay. This is graphic 2. My bad. So I will let you screenshot this, but again, please do purchase the book if you can. Oof, sorry about this, but there's incoherence and there's coherence. Right? Can you see that? Screenshot that. And there's an explanation which I will read at some point. There we go. So now I got to get back to my chapter where I am. All right. He says in figure 3.1, which is the other thing he wants me to show you. I'll do this. This is the graph 3.1. There's a coherent brain and an incoherent brain waves. And I'll read that to you too. As you can see, when the brain waves are coherent, they are in a phase with one another. Both their crests, their high points, their troughs, their low points match because coherent brain waves are more orderly. They are also more powerful. You could easily say they speak the same language, follow the same rhythm, dance to the same beat, and share the same frequency. So they find it easier to communicate. They're literally on the same wavelength. When the brain waves are incoherent, on the other hand, the electrochemical messages or signals that they are sending to different parts of the brain and body are mixed and erratic. So the body cannot then operate in a balanced, optimal state. This is how, when we're in a constant state of stress and fight or flight, our brains are not really functioning like they can, sending all kind of mixed signals. This is how disorder, dis-ease shows up. The second change our brain experiences when we enter the quantum is that our brain waves move into a slower frequency, from beta brain waves to a coherent alpha and theta brain waves. That's important because as we slow down our brain waves, our consciousness moves out of the thinking neocortex and into the midbrain, the limbic brain. And there it connects with the autonomic nervous system, the body's subconscious operating system, aka your subconscious mind. It says this is the part of the nervous system that is in charge of digesting food, secreting hormones, regulating body temperature, controlling blood sugar, keeping our heart beating, making antibodies that fight infections, repairing damaged cells, and a myriad of other functions of our bodies over which most scientists believe we have no conscious control. But that's a lie. Let's listen. Basically, the autonomic nervous system keeps you alive. Its main job is to create order and homeostasis, which balances the brain and ultimately the body. The more we can linger in the present moment as nobody, no one, no thing, nowhere, and no time, the more integrated and coherent our brains become. This is when the autonomic nervous system steps in and begins to heal the body because our consciousness merges with its consciousness, and its consciousness is coherent. It's ultimately the coherence. In other words, when you're in the present moment, you get out of your own way. As you become pure consciousness, pure awareness, and change your brain waves from beta to alpha and even to theta and gamma, the autonomic nervous system, which knows how to heal your body much better than your conscious mind does, steps in and finally has an opportunity to clean house. That's what creates brain coherence. If you look at graphics 3A through 3C, in the color insert, you'll see the different brain scans. Graphic 3A is a normal scan of someone in normal thinking beta brainwaves. Graphic 3B was recorded while a student was performing an open focus, showing coherent synchronized alpha brainwaves. Graphic 3C represents a deeper brainwave state of coherent synchronized theta. Let me show y'all that. 3A. There's 3A, 3B. Screenshot that. And then this is 3, 3, 3C. 3C. This is terrible, guys, but you know what I'm trying to do. This is terrible, but you know what we're trying to do here. If in this state you are no longer reaffirming the known, your same life, and instead you keep investing your energy into the unknown, as you would invest money in a bank account, then you are able to recreate new unknown possibilities in your life. Not recreate, I'm sorry. Then you are able to create new unknown possibilities in your life. Just as the material electron expands back into immaterial energy in the quantum field, once scientists stop observing it, when you no longer observe your pain, your routine life, and your problems, they will turn back into energy, into an infinite number of possibilities, into pure potential. Once again, mind blown. Yeah. Only once you are truly present in this potent place beyond this space and time, the place from where all things materially come, can you begin to create real change. So, guys, for me, like I said, I've been on this manifestation journey for a long time, most of my adult life. This gave me clarity in terms of what I was doing when I was consuming content from people like Neville Goddard or Law of Attraction or anything esoteric, metaphysical. This gave it legs for me because science and quantum physics is basically the study of all of those things. And Dr. Joe here is making it plain and simple that it's all energy. Neville says, assume a new reality, assume something new, revise if you have to. But whatever you tune into, that's what you're collapsing into reality. And if you keep tuning into what you don't like, the past, anything about it, especially as it relates to a person or a circumstance or a job or whatever, you're just recreating the same thing. Tune into a new potential. Shout out to Dr. Joe. At a 4-day advanced workshop in 2016 in Tacoma, Washington, we conducted a study to show how this actually works. We measured the brainwaves of 117 workshop participants using electroencephalograms. EEG measurements were taken before and after the workshop. We were looking to see if we could detect changes in two different measures of brain function. The first measure was how long it took the subjects to achieve a meditative state, defined by the ability to maintain an alpha brainwave state for at least 15 seconds. We found that the participants were able to achieve meditative states 18% quicker by the end of the 4-day workshop. Why? Because they practiced it. The second measure we looked at was the ratio between delta brainwaves associated with moving into deeper levels of subconscious mind and high range beta brainwaves, usually associated with high levels of stress. Anxious people usually have lots of high range beta and lower level of delta brainwave frequencies. I know what that is because I've lived anxiously. I have. But no more. But I have. And I am reconditioning my body to a new mind. Boom. We were looking to see if meditation, specifically the successful practice of slipping into the quantum realm and becoming nobody, no one, no thing, nowhere, and in no time, might improve those values. And in fact, it did. I want to also note that Dr. Joe, he's not the first to teach meditation. A lot of people have taught it, but he is the first to teach it in this way and to get researchers to study it from this perspective, right? Becoming no one, no nowhere, no time, no space. It does something different to your brain waves when you can leave your identity behind because most other people who have taught meditation, they didn't understand it from that aspect to teach you that. They'll just say, hey, try not to think a thought. And then they'll say, hey, you have monkey brain. And this is no shot against them at all because we're all doing the best we can. But I do understand meditation totally different. And I also had a strong conviction for doing the meditations because of my understanding of this science. Again, shout out to Dr. Joe. He says participants lowered the high range beta brainwaves, indicated that they were let me go back. Sorry. Anxious people usually have lots of high range beta and lower level delta brainwave frequencies. We were looking to see if meditation, specifically the successful practice of slipping into the quantum realm and becoming nobody, no one, no thing, nowhere, and no time, might improve those values. And in fact, it did. Participants lowered their high range beta brainwaves, indicating they were feeling less stress by an average of 124%, and increase their delta brain waves, indicating a greater feeling of oneness during meditation by an average of 149%. I don't know nothing about these numbers, but I know how I felt once I started doing these meditations and understanding what I was doing. The amount of high range beta brain waves diminished relative to the amount of delta waves by 62%. And this all happened in only 4 days. 4 days, y'all. Look at figure 3.3 to see these results. You'll notice that some of the changes we measured were greater than 100%, indicating that these participants were able to make unusually significant improvements relative, relatively quickly. That's pretty supernatural, is what he says. So this is what? That's 3.2. This is 3.3. I'll never get used to how to do this. All right, cool. We're going to read next. Actually, I'm stopping there because that's actually about to get into part three. So that wraps up part two of chapter three. I hope you're starting to see just how powerful your brain really is and how shifting your focus isn't just emotional, it's biological, y'all. There's science for this. In the next part, we're going to break down one of the most important formulas to manifestation, and that is how to combine a clear intention with an elevated emotion to create real, lasting change. I'll see you in part three. Bye, guys.